Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another Worcester Sucks Power Hour. We're just gonna keep this moving after a very good preliminary election night on Tuesday. I'm wearing my roommate's Xbox gamer headphones and hoping that they work. I actually don't know. Brian, how you doing?
I'm wonderful, Bill.
Hey,
It's
that's
good to
great.
be
That's
here.
great.
Your
So
headphones look sick.
yeah, I got this little talkback mic here. Keep it right in front.
Wow.
So
You look like you're hacking.
yeah, dude, I'm a hacker. Um, We have a special guest with us today to go over the election results. We got Neil McNamara from Patch.com. Neil, how's it going today, man?
Good. My house actually just got struck by lightning about a half an hour ago, so a little rattled. Super weird.
Wow,
Wow.
your house got struck by lightning, and
Yeah.
you're still coming on this goddamn stream. That's dedication.
Yeah. Well, nothing. Not thankfully, nothing happened. So I'm gonna
That's
go play the lottery,
so.
I guess.
There's no damage to the house at all.
No. I guess there's like a grounding pole, So I don't
Oh,
know how it works, but
You hear that,
yeah.
everybody? Neil's fucking untouchable.
yeah, not even lightning can get this guy. That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad your house is okay, and
That's crazy, dude.
I'm glad that you still saw fit to join us. That's absolutely insane. I mean, this weather event we just went through was absolutely wild.
Yeah. Brendan's
Yeah.
neighborhood is on fire. The sidewalk in Brendan's neighborhood is on fire right now. That's why he's not with us.
The sidewalk is on fire?
Yeah. He texted us a picture of it. It's on fire.
Wow.
I don't
Where
even
does he
know.
live?
He lives in Tatnick somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. So he might be joining us later if his sidewalk becomes less on fire. But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Neil, we wanted to have you on not to talk about lightning and houses getting struck by lightning, but maybe perhaps the little lightning in a bottle we saw on Tuesday with the how do you guys like that transition?
That's really good.
With the Tuesday municipal election. And I mean, we'll go over the results of each race in some detail, I imagine. But I'm wondering if you have any sort of general thoughts on the outcome in the day that you'd like to share.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, I think the biggest thing I was surprised by, I guess, was Bellata, coming in second. I mean, I guess it was hard for me to I was having a hard time looking at that race and figuring out who might come out in the top two. So, but I guess Palmieri was kind of I don't know, it's like a wild card because he had so much name recognition going into the election, but he got as many votes as Larry Shetler, so it's kind of a strange outcome, I think.
Yeah, that was strange how few people voted for him.
Yeah.
He did seem to take it pretty seriously. He spent money, he got signs, he did try, and he used to be a city councilor. So, were you expecting him to come in second behind Candy?
I was expecting either him and Candy or him and Bellata. Actually, I thought maybe there was a chance that Candy could just not make it through. There's a slight, obviously not that much of a chance, but
yeah. There's some very interesting campaign finance data to get into for District 2 that we'll get into a little later. But I guess kind of quickly going through the other races in the preliminary, District 1 was a complete blowout. Jenny Pasillo won by, I think it was 1,500 votes to David Peterson got 800 something. And she won every precinct besides one. Actually, I had this guy, Patrick Duffy. He made a really cool little map visualizing the precinct level data here. So if you look at District 1, Jenny got everything besides one of those precincts, which is a pretty dominant showing going into the general election. I'd say it's definitely a clear favorite there. And it's kind of the same deal in District 5 with Natal and Jose Rivera. I actually thought that was going to be a lot closer than it was. But Natal did a whole lot better than Jose Rivera did, which is Very, very
Yeah,
interesting.
and even like keeping up with the numbers she put up in 2021 in the preliminary with a larger field, of course, but like yeah, she didn't really lose much ground between the two preliminaries. Not that they're that's a huge barometer of anything, but still pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think they made the mistake of Jose saying too many of the things that he thinks? That seems like it might be a big problem for him.
Maybe. I mean,
so
yeah. I guess I don't know if you guys Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just gonna say that Neil has a real employer, and probably I don't know how much opinion you can necessily.
I was asking Bill, so I don't know.
Oh well, if you're asking me, then obviously, dude, he's shut his goddamn stupid mouth, dude. He's only hurt himself by opening his mouth. Yeah, and I also thought it was interesting in that D5 race, looking at the numbers that Mattel spent about $5,500 ahead of the preliminary, and Jose Rivera spent $18,000, and got like way less votes. So like the spending per votes metric on that particular race is crazy. And Neil, I know that you went through and did some number crunching on that whole thing about money spent versus votes received. And I also did that too for a couple of races, but I was wondering if we could maybe talk about that whole thing and where you found that metric to be especially useful,
Yeah, well, I mean, just like I think it's just like a way of like if someone comes in first place and they spent a ton of money, maybe it's not like a huge indication of anything, but like like I think in Rivera's case, it's quite interesting that I think it shows like more of like maybe like some more of the actual support somebody has, because like Rivera is accepting contributions from to the Chamber of Commerce, to Murray, and a lot of like more wealthy interests, I guess, and it didn't really pay off. I'm not really sure what he spent the money on, like signs and things like that.
Walter Bird.
Yeah, paying Walter, I guess.
a lot of it went to Walter.
Like Jose is the only candidate with the campaign manager, like I think they all have campaign managers, somewhat, but like Walter is like an exception, where he's like really like he's so heavily involved in everything, and like it's they're treating it almost like some kind of like they're running for the United States Senate or something like that. Like it's interesting.
It's very rare to see a campaign manager who anyone knows who they are, right?
Yeah,
and Walter has just had a way of wiggling himself into the foreground of this race. Sorry to invoke the image of Walter wiggling, but yeah, it's very interesting. It's almost like at times it almost feels like he thinks he's running, right? Like is he the candidate, right? And it's very interesting in that way. And also in District 2, the spending per votes thing is crazy, because Candy Mel Carlson spent $30,000 to get 720 votes. That's crazy. That's like an entire like minimum wage like earnings for a year that she spent to get 720 people to vote for her. She spent $13,000 in August alone. Right, so
on what? Digital ads?
Yeah, I actually didn't look at the expenditures tab on OCPF as much as I looked at the donors and the fundraising. But yeah, System Nomad, I think it comes up to $42 per person. Like,
you just handed that over and bought more votes.
It probably would have been more effective if you just went around the neighborhood with like a stack full of 20s and was just like, hey, head to the polls here. $40, vote for me.
Yeah. It shows that, like, I don't know, she's like, well, so I live in D2. I think, Billy, you do too. But like, I got two mailers and something on my door from Canada. Puts me on a vote in every election, and can see they get the data. They know who votes. They don't.
Yeah.
waste flyers on people who don't vote. But I think it's, if she's giving this mail out to people expecting that they're going to vote for her based on it, it's probably not enough. I mean, she's, my neighbors don't know who she is, and they've lived here for 50, 60 years. Like it's, they also don't know what a city council is either. So
right, yeah. So that's a significant problem contributing to like the 9% voter turnout we saw. As you say, is that just convincing people to care at all, or even know or pay attention, is probably the biggest hurdle in Worcester politics. I mean, and it's crazy because if you go back before Plan E, like in like the 40s and 30s, 40s, 50s, it was like there were some elections where it was like 80% voter turnout, like 90%. Like it used to be significant and matter, and now it's just like who cares, right? But this candy mailer I got, which is massive.
It's
like,
a big one,
bigger than the size of my head. I found it very interesting looking at who her donors were. That the lead sentence here is: the next city council will determine what kind of city we will be, and whether we will continue to have record investments in our neighborhoods. And it's like,
is that the one with Big Poppy on it?
No Big Poppy, just Candy looking badass, And that line, whether we will continue to have record investments in our neighborhoods, when you look at who her donors are, and it's almost entirely developers, real estate agents, real estate attorneys and shit. It's like, that's obviously her constituency is the sort of development community. And that's probably why she threw such a big hissy fit when she got kicked off of the economic development subcommittee.
I mean, if she wins again, I mean, does she just like want to be back on that committee? Does she want to be in charge of economic development again? Is that like I'm trying to? She wouldn't answer she wouldn't agree to an interview with me. But I want to ask her, like, why do you even bother coming? Why do you want to be on city council anymore? I'm sure she would say something like, to serve the people and all that. But it's like,
but what's the actual reason?
Yeah,
I wouldn't hold your breath for a real answer on that one.
Yeah, for many, yeah.
But the real answer probably lies somewhere in interrogating why the owner of Pat's Towing gave her $1,000 in August. There's some stuff that's probably libelous to say out loud that can be unpacked in just maybe looking at the history of Pat's Towing, doing a Google search there, and then thinking about what a city councilor could possibly do for an organization with the history of Pat's Towing, and also like with high up police officials, and there's a little bit of dots to be connected in there, I think. Not going to do them here per se.
It's like when you see those connect the dot pictures, and it's almost all like filled in. All right, like it's just like, oh, that's a smiley face. I get it. Okay, I don't even have to fill it in. I can just look at it.
Yeah, like
the dots are so close together. It's essentially the picture already.
It has a sort of like a Rico vibe to it. If you know what I mean? But yeah. So I think that I'm curious how you feel about this, Neil. But heading to November, I think that District 2 is extremely interesting as a race, in that it's like a very unabashed progressive versus one of the like real avatars of the old guard of City Hall, and it's only a 7-point differential in the preliminary here. Like Rob did pretty good. He got 584 votes to Candy 720, and he's actually fundraising and actually campaigning, and he won. I think it was 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 to Candy's 7 precincts.
Yeah, it very important on that map. One of the precincts he won is downtown, like the entire downtown. Like that's one thing that like I was like super interested in with this race in particular, is that if people are moving to Worcester from Boston or wherever to get cheaper rent to live in these new developments, why would they vote for Candy Merrill Carlson over, a young guy who maybe looks and acts more like them? I've long thought about this. Like, did Ed Augustus and Mayor and Joe Petty, do they know that by bringing in this younger crowd that they're kind of putting themselves out of jobs? I think in some ways, because like I don't know, like this is kind of off out of
No,
hand,
go
but
for it.
like okay, so I mean, Boston just elected Michelle Wu. Like that city, I mean, I have a ton of family from like Jamaica Plain. They all still live there, and they hate Michelle Wu because they're from Boston. They hate Boston changing. They're old racist kind of no offense to my family, but like they're that kind of like racist Democrat that can only live in Boston and that would only vote for someone like Marty Walsh. But now Boston has elected someone like Michelle Wu, who is much different than other mayors they've had. And is that kind of the thing going to come here too, where they're younger people moving to the downtown area, to the Canal District? What kind of candidates do they want? I can only believe it's going to be somebody more like Bellotta than Candy.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point, and that's also contingent on it actually working. But it would be really like the economic development strategy. I mean, but it would be really cool to compare like a couple years of that particular precinct and what the votes have been like, and like for who, because that's if there is a part of the city where you can reasonably expect more young people to move to. It's definitely that one. 6,000 to 8,000 housing. Yeah, like there's a lot of new housing in there. That's specifically targeted at that clientele. So that is an interesting point that they would they economic development themselves out of the job.
And Rob lived in one of those buildings. He lived in the lofts there off Grove Street.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I think that just a Rob Bellotta victory here would just be like such a signal that like this old school crony like social club of a city council just has to go. I don't really know much about the D4 candidates, and I was wondering if you had some insight on. So the way that race worked out is that I'm gonna keep calling them psychos. The three psychos in the D4 race all did not advance to the general election, and now we have two reasonable people. One of them is Sarai Rivera's personal pick, Luis Ojeda, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not entirely sure. And then you have Katia Norford. And I was wondering if you had any sort of a sense of who those two candidates are and what they're bringing to the race.
I wish I did. I mean, they both didn't. Yeah. I was talking to Luis for a while, like trying to set up an interview, but he just he just stopped responding to me. So I don't know what, and Katia never responded to me, but I've heard that, from people who work in campaigns around here that like, I guess if you're looking for a more progressive candidate, I think that Katia, if that's how you pronounce her name, is like just like has that edge, even though I think they're probably, both pretty, would vote similarly on city council.
Yeah, that's kind of how I put it in my recap too, is that like I'm really not sure how much space there is between the two candidates. So that's going to be something to sort of I don't know, just get them to talk to us. Let's hear a little bit from them.
And like the other three candidates, Maureen Schwab told me that she was afraid to campaign. She didn't want to go door to door. So, your campaign's over if you're not going to go door to door.
What exactly was she afraid of?
She didn't really want to. She didn't elaborate. She's just like, she's she's an older lady. I guess I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't think it's safe to do that. I'm not sure, but and Maria Montero just I don't know. She just struck me as someone who was kind of like on Facebook. I think she had a fight with two bizarre interaction there. So but Ted Costas, I mean, I feel like he could have won like very easily had he just been able, like he was not also not able to go door to door. Like he wasn't able to do it. But I think he probably could have if he had that ability to go door to door.
He won. He won. It's interesting that he won more precincts than Katia did. But I think he won 2 of the precincts, and still lost. I found that to be strange. And he also fundraised pretty heavily, and he has like $2,000 on hand, which is more than either of the two winning candidates do. So I don't know, maybe buy some more bus tickets for another January 6th or whatever with that one.
I mean, I thought he was going to win. Or not win, but at least get through.
Yeah, I was nervous about that. I really thought that he was going to at least advance. So that was very positive that he didn't. But I think that maybe just speaks to the lack of ultra mega mindset in D4. Because you kind of like in the District 5 race, you kind of see where the ultra mega mindset of the city really lies. Because Rivera won all of those sort of south and west of Webster Square precincts. Yeah, right. And that's like getting into being more similar to Leicester.
Less Tucky,
yeah, less Tucky, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Getting into Rivera had a lot more signs than he did votes. That's true.
I think this is about Costas. He had one donation after May.
Oh,
is that true?
I don't know. I didn't look at it that hard. I just looked at like the front sheet. I didn't really get too heavy into his like reports. Jose Rivera's reports, though, extremely interesting. He really was the pick for like everyone in the old guard of like Worcester politics. Like he got donations from Mike Angelini, Ed Augustus's personal attorney and shadow master of everything. Like he got Alex Guardiola and Tim Murray from the Chamber of Commerce, a bunch of developers, Kate Toomey, which I don't know if that's even legal what she did, but she donated as a city councilor to him, which is kind of crazy. And then Rick Cipro's committee must have just cleared out their old war chest from last election and just gave it right to Rivera. So yeah, he's very obviously the the pick for them, and I don't know how it's going to work out. I thought he was going to do a lot better. There's also no. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm interested in the angle of Tim Murray. Like, I understand him supporting Rivera as like the Chamber of Commerce, but he also is the one that got Kennedy in the race over Joe Petty. So I'm wondering what the angle is there, what the strategy is there for like those two people being like.
I was literally going to ask that same exact question. It's
a very good point. I mean, it's an enigma, right? Because like, it's not unknown that Attell and Kennedy work very closely together, right? Like
Robin
they don't hide
campaigning for Attell,
right? So why would you?
And several other candidates.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of explanation you'd only get if you got like Tim Murray a couple beers in and said we're off the record, and he'd be like, yeah, just fucking Joe pissed me off. Something like that, something stupid. But it might honestly be because like Attell threatens the Chamber of Commerce's ability to just unilaterally dictate policy on the city council floor, whereas a state senator really doesn't do that. So
it's probably as simple as that, honestly. But
and really Petty like is better suited for Tim Murray's needs probably on the city council than in the Senate.
True.
Right. So school committee District E is going to be extremely interesting to watch because, man, Kathy Roy is one of the worst of the worst of our prolific Facebook cranks, working on an extremely interesting thing about her that I can't quite share yet, but let's just say she's a little Q adjacent, and then Nelly Medina is just fucking awesome. I wish we had that clip of from the last stream when we had Nelly on. She just goes, I can't wait to kick Kathy's ass in November. Solidarity forever. That was so cool. And that race was real close. So that's going to be an interesting one. I think Nelly needs a lot of help to make sure that we don't put Kathy Roy on the school committee. That would be really bad. I'd be like, I don't know.
I think she'll get it though. Like she I think she's pretty close with David LaBeouf. I know that she was talked about as like if he was going to run for the Harriet Chandler seat, she was talked about as a candidate for his state house seat. So I don't see how she won't get some pretty big institutional support.
Right.
Yeah, I think she will. And then, but like Kathy Roy at the same time is like, I don't know, she used to be the chairman of the Worcester Republican Committee or whatever. Like she has that whole infrastructure. And that's really the only race that went well for our crank contingent here in the city. Like every other candidate that they kind of like that catered to them did really bad. Like Rivera is the perfect example. But then Ted Costas too, like probably should have won and then didn't. So I think that's an encouraging thing to come out of this election is that like these annoying people on Facebook just are not someone you actually have to listen to in any way.
And also David Peterson in D1, he's, I believe Tony Economou is his like kind of, his spirit guy or whatever. And what's his name? Manfredo, the old school committee guy. So like those are, I believe, I haven't been around that long, so I don't know, but like I believe that those are pretty conservative.
He's hanging out with Manfredo.
Yeah, can you expand on that?
Yeah.
Oh, their neighbors.
What?
Is he getting the Manfredo endorsement? Sort of that.
I think so. Yeah, I
bump?
mean, he named Manfredo and Economou as the guys who were kind of guiding him in this.
Whoa. Where did he do that? That's important.
I did like an interview profile with him, and yeah, that's what
it's
I asked
in
him.
that.
Yeah,
it's in that profile. Oh, okay. Making a note to look that back up.
Yeah, you know Manfredo's deal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not even like a rumor. It's like a literal. Like, I mean, you can Google it, and it's in the newspaper.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pardon my words here, a fucking piece of shit. So,
never.
That's very disappointing. Of Dave.
Yeah, it was also interesting. I listened to the D1 forum, and the moderators, of course, asked Jenny about the video where she was just trying to be funny, right? And like just being cute and funny. And they were like, can you explain why you would say that city council is a circus? And David Peterson, like 15 minutes before that question was like, I'm not like your normal politician. I don't take myself too seriously. I don't like hold myself like a politician does. And then given an opportunity to address that video, he says, I think this is a very big deal and should be taken seriously. And it's conduct unbecoming of a city council. It's like, you're so full of shit,
Clownish behavior. Just fucking like, just run the baseball team. Like, why do people that I, vaguely like or consider like friendly acquaintances have to get into politics, and I have to seriously consider who they are as people?
Yeah, it stinks. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Because like he's from what he said at that forum, he's very obviously running as like a yes, Tim Murray, sir, please, sir, kind of candidate, like in the Tony Economou mold. So it's like, I don't know, it just kind of speaks to like how obvious and like it doesn't track that city councilors can just run on this like Chamber of Commerce thing, and just no one cares. You start talking about the dual tax rate and bringing it to a single tax rate, and everyone's eyes just glaze over it. Like, what the hell? Because it really is one of the dumbest issues ever. It's so contrived, and it has nothing to do with like anybody's life. And yeah, so I see that like the center is just not going to hold here. Like even in the at-large race, looking at November, it's like Joe Petty's kind of on his own running as a center candidate, and like the rest of them are either right wingers or progressives in the at-large, which is interesting. And I think heading into November, there's like some pretty encouraging math to run if you're coming at it from the perspective of like seeing progressive gains, or at least a progressive, maybe even a majority, right? I think it's possible that happens, because on at large, you have Mo Bergman and what's her face, Donna Colorio, kind of at the bottom of the list, like probably the most easy to get knocked out.
Yeah.
And who's going to take their place? It's looking like it's pretty comfortably going to be a progressive candidate that takes their place if they get knocked out. So
yeah, like someone like Domenica Perrone, like I'm really like the energy that she is bringing to this campaign is pretty surprising. It's like another one that's it's almost like she's running for like some much larger office. She's treating it like a really serious business where I don't Joe Petty doesn't go door to door, right? Like I don't think he does. I mean,
no.
I just don't know how he reaches new voters. Like I know how he can maintain relationships with people who have been voting for him for 20 years, but what about the new people who are living here? I mean, Worcester grew by 15,000 people in the last 10 years or whatever.
Right.
So
yeah, and I mean that's how Tu and Attell picked up their seats last election cycle, is they just like they didn't play the old game of just like appealing to the same routine voters all the time. They hit the ground and did door knocking and tried to reach new people.
And is that why Petty also lost the state Senate seat? Because he couldn't do what Robin was doing, not only from like the math perspective of like knowing which doors to knock, but from actually like the volume of doors knocked and outreach made.
I think there's just kind of like two levels of professionalism at play here with like what the campaign strategies are, that the old guard kind of candidates are not used to having to compete with people who are campaigning seriously and like actually targeting voters and like doing 21st century techniques here, because
I would imagine if like I've never really gotten into it with her about how Petty's state Senate campaign went, but obviously Jenny worked on it, and I think if you got an honest answer out of her, there was probably some frustration there about like seeing that old school like approach wasn't going to work, and why not like take a more personal, modern approach, new wave approach to it. And obviously, he is who he is.
Yeah, he's just that guy.
I mean, you can look at Attell in 2021 and Robin Kennedy in last year. Those are like the three blueprint campaigns for if you want to win a seat in Worcester and you're running against one of these people who are old school handshake kind of politicians. Like, this is how you win. It's
right.
Clear. It's literally just math.
Yeah. Like it's not even. Well, I guess I don't want to say it's not hard, but like it's not like some huge invention, right? It's not some like miracle breakthrough in campaigning. It's just like doing stuff that happens in other cities, which is like Worcester's main problem, is just like thinking that we could do stuff that other cities do and try to be like not 10 to 15 years behind the times on everything. So Neil, I want to get your perspective on the mayor's race, as that is going to be solidified in just a couple of days. September 12th is
Monday.
The last day to withdraw. Is it Monday?
Tuesday.
So as we have it now, is Donna Colorio still in, as far as you know?
I think so. I haven't heard otherwise. Like, she doesn't have a campaign website or anything, or
right. I've only heard rumors that she's going to pull out.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, but if she stays in, then that would be 5 candidates for mayor. We'd have Christian King, Guillermo Creamer, Joe Petty, Bill Coleman, Donna Colorio. Bill Coleman is insignificant, and kind of Donna Colorio is too. But I'm curious how you're sort of looking at the mayor's race going out.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. I forget if I saw, I don't know, maybe I saw something on Twitter or something, people talking about it. But I think, like I would never want to like begrudge like Guillermo or even Bill Coleman for running, because like, when people were like down on like Ralph Nader or Cornel West this year, like
Right.
oh, like Cornel West stop running because you're gonna, you know, Trump's gonna win again if you run. Like whatever. Like people can run if they want. Like it's not, you know, it's not, people shouldn't not run because they want someone else to win, like whatever, you know. But I think so yeah, so basically my thinking is that like I think it's Christian's like kind of, it's his thing to handle. Like if his campaign is you know, like super like focused and together, I think they probably would have some kind of you know, this is all just like speculation. I have no idea.
Sure,
like,
yeah, of course.
They might want to talk to Guillermo because you know, I think that, you know, they're both. I mean, I don't want to put labels on them that they wouldn't, you know, that wouldn't come out of their own mouths, but like they both seem like more progressive, of course, like compared to Peggy and Glorio. So I feel like they're obviously running for maybe the same group of voters. So yeah, I think Christian really, if he wants to be if he wants it to be him versus Petty, and you know, he's got to kind of do that work probably.
Right. Yeah. We're coming up kind of close on the deadline to do that.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Brian.
I like that is the big question is like how does the vote break down depending on which candidates are there, and it's, you know, that's is it hugely in like Petty's favor the more candidates that are in, or if specific candidates are in? Like I think that's the big question is like how does it all play out if it stays the way it is right now? Like it seems like it probably favors Joe.
Well, yeah, because Joe has the incumbency, and also he has the group of people that are going to vote for Joe no matter what, right? That's not going anywhere, and it's on challengers to like not even peel away from that group of people, but just like find a new group, because there's just people that are going to show up and vote for Joe every time, especially in a mayor's race. You know, it's different for the state senate, but for mayor, it's like, oh yeah, that's Mayor Joe Petty, we like him, boop, vote, right?
What would his name even be if he wasn't mayor?
right, yeah. Oh, if I don't win the mayor's race, what are they going to call me, mayor? But yeah, so I don't know. I tend to think that the vote splitting would happen in the other direction. It would split King's and Guillermo's votes, and I see it. I think the narrative of this election is that there's a real possibility for a progressive takeover of the majority of the city council. And I would like it to be a little bit eyes on the prize of that goal and not so personality based. And I kind of think the path forward for that is Christian King leading that sort of charge there and not having it be a question that he is sort of the avatar of that moment.
Well, just imagine the difference in like the few things that the mayor in Worcester actually does have power over, which is like, you know, committees.
Keys. Yeah, committees.
Well, yeah, keys. You know what? Oh boy, I gotta get me my key. But you know, the committee thing, like it's simply just look at like Kate Toomey off of public safety is the difference between having Joe there and not having Joe there. Like if you had a more progressive mayor, they're not putting her as the head of public safety. Even if she went, like even if she gets back in, she's not getting that spot. And that's a huge difference because so many of the things have been like, so many of the like stuff that's happened over the past few years have been it's been like dead from the start because you can't get a public safety committee meeting going. And when you do, it's just you know, it's PR for the police department.
Yeah, it's like, tell me more about how great you are.
Right.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, probably functionally, that's the mayor's biggest power over another city councilor, is the ability to define who gets on what board.
I think can he also decide, like, if someone wants to hold? I guess if someone wants to hold something, he can't stop that, right? Like,
no. But like as we've seen, every single city council meeting, they play a little fast and loose with the rules sometimes. And the mayor does have that sort of chairman's soft power to kind of dictate the flow, schedule and like tone and pace of the meetings.
And what's on the agenda probably too.
Right. And that's where I see Christian being really strong, because like he was out in front being like, we need to do a search for the city manager. You know, let's be actual leaders. Let's actually use this oversight power that we have to like be a real city council. And he like has a vision for what Worcester's doing poorly in terms of process and what they could do better. So I think that like him doing that kind of stuff instead of Petty would just be like, just such a world of difference. I really think. And he's been on the council long enough to know what's wrong with it. You know,
I think that's my struggle with it. It's like what Neil said before. Like I hate getting into that stuff of like telling people like you should or shouldn't run or trying to get any of that, especially in this specific case. I hate doing that, and so I'm agnostic about that to a large extent. But just seeing that possibility of like the math is just making me think like, this is I just want this to go well.
Yeah, I just want it to go well too, and I see a real wind sucked out of the sails kind of thing happening if there's like 9,000 votes to Petty, and then a 15,000
4.5 to
split between two candidates and neither of them win, right? Like if the vote total for Guillermo and Christian is higher than the vote total for Petty, but Petty wins, that sucks so bad. That's just, I don't know. But I mean, it's not, who sits in the mayor's chair is not like a normal city. It's not the end of the world or anything.
No, it's just that's just that one thing,
Yeah.
Like you said, setting the agenda, setting who's where is.
Yeah.
But so if Christian and Guillermo did split the vote, could they also would they also not? How do they also get elected as at-large city councilors? I always forget this. Like, is it mayoral votes plus at-large or total?
No, it's a separate line.
Separate line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So someone could like hypothetically get elected mayor and not get elected for at-large council because you have to vote for them twice. So Joe Petty could get 9,000 mayoral votes and no at-large votes, and I have no idea how that would. Like, how does that work?
Right. Yeah. We'll have to. Yeah, we got to get one of our,
We need one of our rules people.
Yeah.
Here to explain that one. Yeah. But they're separate. They're separate
lines on the ballot. I don't know. There might be a thing where you have to win an at-large spot to. It might be the top vote getter of the at-large winners. Wins mayor. There might be a caveat there that doesn't allow a non-winner to get into the mayor seat. But because it's Worcester, it's so fucking confusing and backwards.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so fucking backwards. It's crazy.
And there should at least be a primary or preliminary in the mayor's race if you're going to have potentially 5 candidates. This you got to pull out horseshit. It's really bad process. Exactly. I think that's a really good point. It's like if there was a way, a structural way to make it happen instead of having to do infighting, that it's none of that feels good. It's not fun. Yeah, a democratic way, there's so many things in Worcester that just happen by this weird administrative back end. Yeah.
Yeah. Just building your own little unspoken rules on top of a set of insane rules. like this whole thing about technically every single person in the at-large race right now is running for mayor.
Right.
But we all know who's actually running for mayor. But until September 12th, literally every single candidate for at-large is running for mayor. So it's the way that we even think about this system, in that we can talk about there being 5 mayoral candidates right now, it just shows that the system is stupid.
Here we go. Sally's got us. Yeah. So step 1 is win your at-large seat, one of the at-large seats. Step 2, become the highest vote getter for mayor.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I mean, hey, what if Joe Petty didn't get enough votes to win at-large? then we're fucking golden. Then it's like
yeah, right.
Then it's
kind of best case.
Then it's 1, 2, A and B, like mayor and deputy mayor, assistant mayor, whatever the fuck they call it. Then we're good.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's gonna be. I don't know. So I'm expecting it to get like more psychotic ahead of the election because it normally does. But like, I don't know, if you're one of our local Facebook psychos next door people and you're looking at these preliminary results, do you just kind of give up? You're like, oh, I guess being a psycho doesn't translate into.
No, they are psycho. No, that guy Mark Peavy is shows.
Yeah,
he's a barometer of their thinking.
Yeah.
I also want to know that there's that guy Dave Smith, I think his name is on.
Oh
Twitter.
yeah.
Which cop is that a burner account for?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That might be Petroni.
Yeah, it feels like a Petroni.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. There's a city council meeting next week, right? So we're probably gonna see a whole lot of politicking going on there, making it super fucking annoying.
Yeah, we have the crisis pregnancy centers back on this week too. So.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be the thing.
Real interesting how people talk about that after these prelims.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's very funny. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of one thing I wanted to bring up today. Just like, I don't know, in case it's relevant, but like, I really feel like that the crisis pregnancy thing was like Eric Batista testing his power. Like, can I get away with not doing something the city council voted in favor of doing? The issue of whether those should be regulated is kind of separate. But like, so like, I don't know, is Eric kind of soft testing his like ability to like run the city council? Like, is that what we're seeing? And yeah, how does it,
that's a very interesting point. And I think that like to understand that, you got to think that like before this came up as an issue, two didn't give up in like a couple instances where they should have given up per the like sort of cultural rules of the city council.
Very passive aggressive rules, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. So it's like the Joe Pettys of the world are content to let the city manager just drop something if he doesn't like it or doesn't want to do it or whatever. And like two questioned that norm to the point where he had to answer for his perceived ability to just drop shit, right? And Ed Augustus never had to answer that, ever. Like, no one would ever make him say it out loud. No one would ever ask, why did you ignore me?
Why did you lie?
Why did you lie? That would be, that would be breaking a taboo. You let the city manager do what they want. So I think it's more like the other way around. I think that Batista assumed he had that power. And when he was called on it, didn't have a really good explanation for why he has that power, so then had to retrofit it to look like he didn't. Like that, I think that's the only reason why we're even getting a vote on the CPC thing. Is it's literally just retrofitting it because like, we don't want people thinking about how the city council isn't in control. It's best to keep that quiet, right? So that's
even George Russell. Is kind of. I feel like he might be ready to do something about this because he's got this ADU issue that he's actually legitimately trying to get like this, ADU thing passed. And like they're just not doing it for some reason. Yeah, and I feel like he's ready to like pop on that one.
George Russell's cool sometimes. I really hope he does put up a similar stink that two put up, because that's just seems like a no-brainer. Like, why aren't we doing that? I don't, especially with all this talk about affordable housing, it's like an easy win, right? I don't understand why they're balking on that, but
because Tim Murray told them to.
Right, Tim Murray said no way, and they're like, okay, Tim, you are actually the mayor. So Russell's race is interesting because I really don't know much about his challenger at all. Neil, do you have any insight on Fianna? I'm not going to try. I haven't heard it said out loud. So
not yet. I did I got all the voting records of everyone, like all their, you can't look at who they voted for, but you can tell like what, whether they voted for a Republican or a Democrat. And she did vote for Republicans a few times, like in her past. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to talking to her and figuring out more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's pretty thin. I really don't know anything at all. Heard that she might be like a real estate agent, but I also don't even know that. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I guess since there was no preliminary, there's been no reason to really dig and focus on it. But it is pretty hard to find out anything at all on her. So I don't know how that one's going to go.
Wow, an all real estate district.
Yeah, yeah. Realtor versus realtor, that can get pretty bloody,
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting kind of close to time here. But Neil, I was wondering if you had any more sort of thoughts on the preliminary or heading into the general things that are going to be interesting to pay attention to.
Yeah, I guess. Well, one thing is like the inclusionary zoning thing. Like I think that when that vote happened in I don't know, March or whatever that was, April, you saw a lot of people stand up and say like, we're going to remember this for the election. And that is one thing I think that did come through in the preliminary. I mean, Attell obviously and Bellotta were huge backers of that thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that's remains a motivator for people. I mean, I think it'd be really interesting to see if the people who voted for that or voted for the more conservative version of that actually do end up paying a price for it.
Right. Yeah. I think that in D2 especially, that's kind of should be or is the most significant narrative, is that Candy's very obviously for the development community, and Rob is a very vocal supporter of putting sort of residents above the interests of developers. So inclusionary zoning could come into that big time. The trouble with inclusionary zoning is it's so hard to explain in a way that lands and tracks, because on paper, everyone can say they supported inclusionary zoning, right? Like you can say that and it's true.
Yeah.
And people like Joe Petty say that all the time, and correcting that statement is like, I don't know how you do that without losing most people, right? Who don't already know that that's kind of a lie. That's a trick to it. I did also think it was interesting, especially in D5, the way that Rivera campaigned on unhoused stuff, right? Like the Blessed Sacrament shelter, and put out that statement about how a moratorium on sweeps is a bad thing for the city, said we're going to end up like mass casts all over the place, sort of thing. Did that fear mongering, and it just didn't work, right? Like we hear all the time that it's like we have to balance not being so cruel against the unhoused with neighborhood concerns. But like we had somebody try to do that and just did not get as many votes as somebody who wanted to put a moratorium on homeless encampment sweeps and like actually cares about unhoused people. So I wonder if that's like an actually motivating issue for people, or just if people actually see that sort of fear mongering for what it is and like just are kind of turned off by it. I don't know. It seems like it'll be interesting to see whether Rivera keeps hitting that point.
It's gotten plenty of city councilors and many other cities elected. That line of attack for sure. Right.
And like, yeah, because you actually sent me an email about what's that guy's name from Seattle?
Christopher Rufo.
Yeah. So he was a city councilor at a time.
No, he like attempted to run and then made up some stories about getting abused for it, and then built his career off of it, because he got a lot of attention from it. But in Seattle, I used to cover Seattle City Council, and the City Council went from electing a socialist 13 years ago, Kshama Sawant, pretty famously, now to having like half the City Council is like entrenched anti-homeless. Let's sweep them out of the world, put them on the moon types. Seattle is a city that, you hear that word and you think like crunchy granola, liberal, whatever. It's not. It's amazing to see stuff like that happen. And I'm surprised if it doesn't happen here.
I think that Rivera is the person most obviously trying to do that. And I'm kind of surprised at how little it seems to be working so far. But I mean, it's pretty potent motivating factor for people, especially single family homeowners, who are people who mostly vote. So it's going to be it was just curious to see. Like I thought that was going to be sort of an electoral weakness for Attell, that she, is a decent human being that actually wants to help the unhoused. But it didn't seem like it was. It seemed like Rivera didn't really get much out of attacking the unhoused in the way he did. But
a big part of it too, I think, is that Attell has like plans for things, or can speak to things. So anytime she's attacked on it, it's like, well, no, this is why I'm trying to do this, and has things in mind, is a leader, as we talk about a lot. Like
right. Has an
so
actual good answer.
Yeah, it's hard to for an attack to break through on her like that, because she's not backing down from it, and she has a stronger idea of what the solution is than the person that's attacking her.
Oh, big time. Yeah, that's obvious on pretty much every question. But yeah, Neil, I think that this is probably a good place to end it for today, unless you have anything else you want to talk about Worcester politics, or what the next 2 months are going to be like. Otherwise, anybody got anything to plug?
Neil?
No.
People can follow you on Twitter.
Yeah.
At Neil McNamara. Find your coverage.
Yeah.
Worcester Patch. Yeah, it sounds like a cartoon, but it's actually a news website that I try to do. So, yeah.
Well, Neil, you've been doing really, really outstanding work, especially on this election, and have definitely been a cut above the jib for a Worcester reporter. So we all appreciate you and the work that you're doing. And
thank you.
Looking forward to more Worcester coverage coming up to this election, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
All right.
And people come out on Sunday. If I can throw a quick plug out, come to Etsy on Sunday. We got Dan Telfer. I ran into him at a concert last night in Boston.
Oh, really?
He rules. He's a great guy. So first ever comedy show at Etsy in their new space. Shop ahead of time, and then 7:00 we'll open the doors for the show. So come on out, everybody. Sick. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
All right. Cool. Well, this has been another episode of the Worcester Sucks Power Hour. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for commenting. And we will be back next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye, guys.